Welcome. We want to thank you for coming here tonight to celebrate our friend Cubby. Everyone here behind the scenes has donated their skill, time, and love for one purpose: to share our love for Charles Kevin Sedgwick, known as Cubby. And you are here sharing in your love for Cubby. So there is not going to be any closing credits or long lists of thank yous. We thank you all for sharing your love of Cubby, and we are all in this together. So we are turning this over to our MC. Let the tall tales, outrageous stories, and the music flow.
Hi, my name is Tim Lynch. I'm the host of KPFA's Dead to the World, and I was lucky enough to be a friend of Charles Kevin Cubby Sedgwick. The fact, just how well loved he was is evident in the fact of this production, this gathering, and everybody who's online. There's a lot of people who are streaming this thing that couldn't actually be with us in the room today. So I do want to thank you all for being here. I think everybody who works on stage crews, you've heard them joke once in a while, oh, safety third, right? They all actually believe in safety first, and we believe in safety first too. So if you're not on stage at a microphone, or you're not in the lobby actively eating or drinking, please stay masked. We want to take care of each other. Safety first during this pandemic, okay? Thank you for your cooperation on that. So when I knew Cubby back, especially I ran real hard with him in the 90s, and we used to laugh and say, quote William Blake, right? The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. I think some of you might have had similar experiences with him. You know, I didn't know at that time that there's a second line to that, and that is, you never know what is enough until you know what is more than enough. Cubby, myself, and probably a lot of people in this room discovered together what enough is by discovering what more than enough is. And we're going to hear a lot of those tales tonight. How many people are here from Ohio? Family from Ohio? We got a few of those. All right. We got some family from Detroit. Right on. Any local IA-16 members in the house? All right. And people who've toured with Cubby, you're going to hear a lot of stories from all the aspects, all the many, many concentric circles that are Cubby's life. And I want to start bringing some of them out. We'll start with a family member named Karen.
Hi, my name is Karen. I am Cubby's sister. First and foremost, every single person in this building that has donated their time, and I just want to say thank you and tell you how much I deeply, deeply appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. First of all, Hal, just know that you calling him Charles would have gotten you punched in the stomach when we were young, because that's what he did. I was not allowed to call him Charles or Chuck or all of the other ones that I wanted to, that I always teased him about. I would get punched in the stomach. So there you go. So the first time my two granddaughters, all the kids in the family have always called him Uncle Kevy. But when my two granddaughters, Reagan and Reese, found out that his real name was Charles, that was the end of Uncle Cubby, and it was Uncle Charles from here on out. So really what I wanted to say tonight is I just wanted to everybody knows Cubby, and I just kind of wanted to bring a little bit of Kevin in. You know, Kevin and I grew up in Ohio, and we were tight, really, really tight, like all our lives. He was my protector, and I was his, and we experienced a lot of life together from the time we were little until, you know, June 5th, 2021. He traveled a lot. We were separated a lot. I started out in Colorado with him with a few really good friend, family people, and you know who you are. And he came here, and but I never, we were never estranged. I said at his service in Ohio, I was glad because there was nothing left unsaid. He and I always said exactly what we felt and exactly what we thought, and I just didn't feel like there was anything left unsaid. I feel like we had said everything to each other. There was nothing ever held back, so I feel good about that. I don't know, I'm sure most of you have probably met Denise tonight. I am incredibly grateful for her. She has been my rock, her, my family, my siblings, my husband, and I'm just grateful that everybody's been able to be here and we've been able to experience this together. It's been a heartbreak, but I have to say, and I've said this to several people tonight, I'm so proud of him for going out on his own terms. He just said, that's it. That was who he was, that was what he did, and I'm grateful that he is in peace, and I will always remember him that way. And in closing, I just want to say, I'll be your legacy, I'll be your voice. You live on in me. So I've made the choice to honor your life by living. I love you, I miss you, and I'll see you again. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Next up, it's someone who worked with Cubby back in the 80s, Nishan from McCune.
COVID protocol. So at the start of the pandemic, I called Cub, and we decided this would be a great time to put parts of our life together. My first and only question was, who was the asshole who gave you the name Cub? He took a moment, and in his Cubby's voice, he replied, that asshole would be you. You see, in 1978, I was hired at Harry McEwen Sound Service. My legal name is Harold Nishan Sujin, and I would go by my Armenian name, Nishan. I was told it would be confusing to clients since my name sounded like a Japanese car, and I was tagged with the name I still despise, Hal. So, Charles Kevin Sedgwick appeared around 1985 as the new warehouseman. I saw my next diamond in the rough, and some days he was rougher than others. The shop was a loud environment, and when I needed help, I would yell at Kevin, hey, new guy, I need you over here. You can imagine how much he enjoyed being called new guy. So after a short time, he said, hey, what's up? And I explained, I could not holler any of his names. And he chimed in and said, hey, is it like a mom standing on the back porch yelling in for her kids to come in? And I said, yeah, you have to have a name you can holler. I go, I can't take you out on shows and go, oh, Charles, would you please plug in the guitar mic? I go, this stuff wasn't working. So Cubby and I sat down, we looked at his names, and I picked the name Cubby, and it's that simple. Thank you all for being here.
I hadn't heard that story before. I have a feeling there's a lot of stories we haven't heard before. you know, you met Dan Crow very briefly when we started. Dan was really close with Cubby. They did a lot of recording and hung out together a lot. And Dan has a lot to say about Cubby, but he's afraid he wouldn't make it all the way through it. So Will Broadhead is going to speak for Dan.
Thank you. Yep, this is definitely for Dan, and it was just a quick quote from Hunter S. Thompson, and it was Dan's epitaph. All he wanted to say was, "There he goes, one of God's own prototypes, a high-powered mutant of some kind, never even considered for mass production, too weird to live, too rare to die." Thank you.
Next up is a guy who did some touring, a lot of touring with Cubby, is Kevin Kay.
Hello, friends of Cubby. I'm Shakes. Cubby gave me that name within an hour of meeting me. It's been my identity for the last 27 years. So back when I worked with Cubby, we toured with Herbalife doing corporate shows around the world. And part of the Herbalife security detail was a group of 5 former SAS soldiers from England. And they loved Cubby, but they also loved torturing Cubby. So one day we were working at Earl's Court in London, and before we opened doors, Cubby was ringing out the microphones when he saw sneaking through the chairs to surprise him one of the security guys called Playboy. Cubby grabbed the voice of God and called him out. "I see you, Playboy. You're not going to get me." Just as he said that, right behind him popped up the other SAS guy, Rusty, put Cubby in a headlock and whispered sexily in his ear, "You dead, mate." We were all lucky Cubby didn't shit himself. I love that fucker. Rest in peace, Cub.
Again, a crazy story. And they told me they're looking for Gino. So I'm supposed to stretch, and I didn't make any stretch material. So when I'm there next time, I'm going to go think of some more stories to tell you. But in the meantime, it sounds like reading for Jim Jacobs of Local 16 is Gino.
It's really nice to see all of you here tonight. Jim Jacobs has had something, I guess, either he couldn't be with us or doesn't make a difference. I'm here on his behalf. It says, "Halfway down the trail to hell, in a shady meadow green, are the souls of all dead troopers camped near a good old-time canteen. And this eternal resting place is known as Fiddler's Green." There's more. I quoted a part of a cavalryman's poem, as indeed we in our craft ply the dark night trails and tend the empty meadow post-canyon, whatever that is, in time and in space, both before and after the scene comes to life. Our brothers and sisters are often more like family than our spouses, and certainly like family than some of our kin. And Cubby, to one as a brother, taught me on several occasions very much about people, with an insightful, quiet comment after an invective interjected upon me to get my attention. Amy and I send our heartfelt sympathy to Debbie and send our warm affection to all our brothers and sisters who share in the loss of our fabulous Cubzilla. I think of our brother often, Kevin Charles Cubby Sedgwick. May his memory be a blessing to all. And there was something that I would like to say since I'm here. There was a Scottish poet, Thomas Campbell, from late 1800s, the 1700s to the mid-1800s. And he said something that says, "To live in the hearts we leave behind is never to die." God bless you, Cubby.
So all of us who knew Cubby saw him go through a lot of different things, thick and thin. But I don't think any of us saw him as happy as he was in the last 4 years of his life with his wife, Denise.
For those of you that haven't met me, I am Denise. I just wanted to give you a big, big thank you for the part of life you were to him, each one of you. My Kevin, your Cubby, 43 years ago or so, hit the San Francisco city limits and said, "This is the place for me." And he made it his place for many years, and that's where all of you come in. I came in first part of the life before you. I then came in 4 years ago after he had been through some pretty dark times and rough times. We all know that he has had the good and bad in life. What all of us have experienced. His seemed to be quite dark at times, but he always, as he said, I squirted out the other end of the hose. He brought me out here when I was ailing one time, and we went to see my sister, and it's all history from there. He decided back home is where he was going to be. Dad's getting older, I need to be back there. I'm coming home. Fine, that's your decision, come on home. And there's where we made a home. He always told me he loved his home. He had a home for the first time, he loved it. But of course, then you know, as you know, Cubby, he would then slip into a dark side. I'm going back to effing California. I was like, okay, well, let me know. I don't know what else to tell you. But 2 minutes later, he'd say, what the hell are you talking about? Where the hell would I go? Why am I going to go anywhere? Look what I got here. Okay, all right, well, he had his Club Cub, as he called it, for all of friends and family to gather. He had not finished it, but it is as good as it's going to be because that's what he made it. And anybody passing through Ohio is certainly welcome. Just give me a call. But I can tell you, everybody here was important and part of his circle. That's why we're here. His circle started in Ohio. It was a very big circle, and each one of you have a slice of it. He came back home because he had to finish his circle, and we didn't know that at the time. But that was to complete his circle, and he's back here now where he wanted to be. But we all have a part of it. And believe me, when he tells you he had the front row seat to the greatest show on earth, that man did, because Cubby did cool shit.
Thank you, Denise. Next up is Cubby's brother, Dante Williams.
Hello. I am Dante. I'm Kevin's little brother. I am from Detroit. You know, family was really important to him. He had family in Detroit. He had family in Ohio. He had family on the road. And he had family in California. And it really honors me to be here tonight with all of you, his family. Again, it was important to him. It's important to our family. It's a bond. It's something that, again, I'm 18 years younger than Kevin, so I wasn't with him like Karen was from the very beginning. My perspective was being, 10, 11 years old and knowing that I had a rock star brother out in California. When I was 13 and 14 years old, he'd send me these mixtapes or whatever, the bootleg tapes of, up-and-coming bands like this little band called Red Hot Chili Peppers that I played for my Midwest buddies, and they were like, this is awesome. Or an all-black thrash metal band, Living Color. Nobody had ever heard anything like that in the Midwest. So that was cool. We were the cool kids. Our mother was very important, is very important to all of us. It was very important to Kevin also. And although there was relationships, everyone's going to talk about the greatness and all that we got from him. But he was a full-fledged character. There were many sides to him. And he would come home and there would be upheaval and chaos. And I don't say this to kind of bring the mood down, but it's to show that he's a real person, right? And his good outweighs his bads because they make an impression on us. And they stay with us. They stay with me. They stay with you. Good and bad. He was always real. You weren't getting a fake Kevin or Cubby. You were getting the real thing. It might be a fantastically spectacular chaos, or it could be total love. Now, when we got older, he came home and came back to Ohio and would spend time with my children and all the nieces and nephews. And again, he was Uncle Charles or Uncle Kevy, and there was, fun and cookies and all kinds of stuff. I call it the 9 lives of Kevin, man. He kind of went through it all and kind of came back to this mature, fun, loving, understanding, and we connected as adults, which is important, was very important to me. In my memory, I'm going to share is a call that we got from Karen on Memorial Day because he was really sick. So my brothers and sisters jumped into a van, into a Suburban, and drove down. When we showed up, he was laying in bed, asleep. I can't tell you what he looked like. But when he heard our voice, he pepped up. He sat up. He said, I'm getting out of this chair. We walked outside to the back porch. And we laughed. And we cried. And I knew that was going to be it. But it was us as a family sharing that moment that will stay with me forever. I love all of you, and I love all of his family.
Next up, his brother Daniel.
Okay, Tim, Dan, I don't know how you're running this, but I'm Dante. There must have been a mistake on the... No, I'm just kidding.
It's all me.
We love that joke. That's our favorite joke. We've been doing it since we were little. No, I'm Daniel. I'm number 6. We are the 6. We had a little tradition from even when I was young, because Kevin was out here. He's 18 years older than us, so as far as I remember, as soon as I started remembering, he was always our rock star brother out in California. He'd get home, and so when we get home, or around Michigan, and Karen would come up from Ohio, tradition for my mother was that we had to get together and take a picture. And in the olden days, back in the 80s, we'd have to go up to J.C. Penney or whatever and get that goofy background. We'd be in our Don Johnson coats. He'd be in his Cubby would be in his flowered T-shirt, and he hated it, absolutely hated having to come in. He had a little bit of scruffy hair, so you guys wouldn't recognize him. Some of you will. But it was something that looked forward to when he would come home. We knew we would get together and take the picture of the six. And so we did that a lot. And again, the six of us. You had Kevin, who was the first, Karen, of course, second, close second. Then you had Christina, kind of the preppy girl, her whole life kind of perky and whatever. We had the boss, Mimi, Michelle. We all called her Mimi. She ruled the roost. You can imagine what Cubby thought of that. And then you had the twins. Nobody could tell us apart. Still can't tell us apart. I'm better with it. You come up to me and you call me Dante. I don't really care. You'd say that you'd call Dante Daniel. He'll say, I don't know what you're talking about. Daniel is my brother. So it was really special. Like I said, everyone, and I think our family has said it a lot, but it really needs to be reinforced. We really do appreciate you guys allowing us to come out here and being part of this. It's really important to us to be able to partake in this celebration with his other brothers and sisters or his other family. So I'm 100% appreciative of everything that's going on here, and this is absolutely amazing. But I do have a story, I guess, about his name. Again, growing up, we were younger. We called him Kevin. And like I said, he'd be gone, and he'd come for concerts. I think it was one year he wasn't able to get home. So he had a buddy that was on tour, and he called up and said, hey, go down to the stadium. You're going to listen to a rock concert. Just go down and get tickets. And we were like 15. We had to be young because we couldn't drive. So my mother drove us down, dropped us off. We go up to Will Call, and we're like, can we have 2 tickets from Kevin? And they're like, there's nothing back here. So it's no cell phone, so we got to call on the payphone. So we're calling California. We're like, what's going on? Where are these tickets? And we can't hear. So he tells us, yeah, nobody knows me by Kevin. Come on. So we go back up to Will Call, and we're like, 2 tickets for Chubby? And I mean, they're like, what are you talking about? Finally, somebody, thank goodness, came by and said, no, that's Cubby. These are Cubby's kids. We're brothers. We know they're here. They're coming in. It was awesome. So I love that story. So that's how we started calling that, but we really didn't call him Cubby. We called him Kevin. But the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I said this last night, but how we understand that music is really important to a lot of people, and they make songs personal. And one of the things that I'm going to take away from this, that I'm super appreciative, is that we have recordings of Kevin with his music or his covers that I'll be able to listen to forever. So his voice will always be with us, and he'll always be with me. So whether you called him Charles or Kevin or Cubby or Pops, he was someone to all of us, but he always reminded me, you may be number 6, but I will always be number 1. Thank you very much.
Well, if I didn't know he was Cubby's brother before, now I do, messing with me. Next up from Local 16, please welcome Joanne Desmond.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Desmond, and I'm an assistant business agent with Local 16. And I'd like to say, on behalf of all of us from the office of Local 16, we'd like to express our deepest sympathies to all of Cubby's family. When I was asked to speak about Cubby, I struggled for a bit. How do you describe the indescribable? I first really got to know Cubby when he started working in the office a few years back. Before that, he was this sort of mythical figure with an unusual name which varied from Cubby, Cubzilla, Cub, and once erroneously called Chubby. He came into the office with his larger-than-life presence, voice booming, armed with his large thermos of Pete's coffee, ready to take on the day. He was loud, but so was I, so the decibel level at the office was at an all-time high. I'd listen with amazement as at times he cajoled, at times insisted on people taking jobs that I thought they would never take. To say it was gentle persuasion wasn't quite correct. More like not so subtle persistence. It was truly fascinating to watch. He also had a wonderful sense of life and adventure, especially when it came to culinary delights. He once stated, and with no disrespect to our Buckeye State residents, that I have such a boring palate, it was like I lived in Ohio. He said it, not me. Whereas Cubby tried everything, Indian, Thai, sushi, El Salvadoran, Mexican, you name it, he ate it. In addition, I learned a few life lessons from Cubby, which I can't repeat here. But one of them, and you can use your imagination, has to do how you can guess a person's occupation by the shoes they wear. And for clarification, please refer to Hal Sugin. When I learned Cubby was ill, I called, and his words to me were, "Jojo, no one had a better life than me." I told him I'd pray for him, and he told me to start rattling those rosary beads. I told him I'd use the good ones. While he left us too soon, we should be reminded of the line from Hamlet. He was a man. Take him for all in all. I shall not look upon his like again. And what is awake without an Irish blessing? So here goes. For all the money that e'er I spent it in good company. And for all the sweethearts that e'er I had, who'd wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls unto my lot that I should rise and you should not, I gently rise and softly call, good night, and joy be with you all. Good night, Cubby.
He was talking about the union office. One time I had to call Cubby about trying to get a band on the radio and how to work this out with the union. And I called, I thought it's the office, so I better, be, semi-professional or whatever. And I said, is Kevin there? And they were like, who? I was like, Kevin, Kevin Sedgwick. They were like, oh, Cubby, right? In the office, nobody knew him as Kevin, I guess. Not that day, anyway. Up next, Cubby worked with Rich Green in the 80s at McCune.
Greetings from Chicago. My name's Rich Green, and in the mid-1980s, I had the dubious distinction of being Cubby Sedgwick's supervisor at McCune Audiovisual in San Francisco. So I remember in the early days of him joining us, I came into the warehouse one morning and I looked over in the corner near the shipping area and I saw some guy shivering in a t-shirt kind of over in the corner. And I went over and lo and behold, it's Cubby. And I'm like, dude, are you all right? I mean, he's like kind of strung out on something. And to be fair, all of us were strung out on something at McCune in the mid 80s. But anyway, I'm like, let me give you this coat. And I had this gray fleece coat that I was very proud of because back in 1980s, fleece coat was the thing. May not be today, I think it is. I digress. So I give him this coat, and all day he's effusively thankful for me giving it to him, just sweet as can be about it. So I'm like, that's cool. I'm expecting it back maybe the next day. A couple days go by, 4 days go by, he's wearing it, just jolly at work. Lo and behold, I'm not getting the coat back. And I remember thinking at that time, for the first time maybe in many times, about Cubby, what a dick. And in all seriousness, what a sweet guy, what a big heart. You're gonna be so missed, such a big force of nature. We all love you, and rest in peace, my brother. I'll play just a little bit of the Farewell Blues. Farewell, Cubby.
So when I first met Cubby, it was because he was playing with a band called Buffalo Rome. And a lot of these folks were in it. Please welcome Maggie, Juliet, Chuck, Rich, Bean, and Fred with a song Cubby wrote about his occupation, the greatest show on earth.
Most days it's a blessing, others you'd swear it's a curse. Picture postcards that you've only dreamed of, well, I get to see far across the ocean, maybe just around the bend. Get on the bus, go to sleep, I get up, we do it all over again. Every town has a different story, but to me, it all sounds the same. Stories of families and friends living through good times and pain. I've had front row seat to the greatest show on earth. Wake up in one town and I wonder which one could be next. Know I've been drunk in every hotel bar room between here or there, more or less. So many far from places, about 1,000,000 miles so far. They all got neon lights, airports, buses, and stars. Late at night when it's quiet, in my head I can hear their guitars. Every town has a different story, but to me, they all sound the same. Stories of families and friends living through good times and pain. I've had a front row seat to the greatest show on earth. Baby's born, a great-grandmother dies, the wind blows the leaves around. Something in the kitchen, well, it sure smells good, meaning supper's almost on. But that telephone ringing means I gotta go, 'cause we all like living indoors. When I get back, we'll all go fishing and laugh about old times. Tell lies and smoke up all bad cigarettes. We'll dance around the fire. Every town has a different story, but to me, they all sound the same. Stories of families and friends living through good times and pain. I've had a front row seat to the greatest show on earth. I've had a front row seat to the greatest show on earth. I've had a front row seat to the greatest show on earth.
Maggie, Juliet, Chuck, Rich, and Fred. On top of all his other talents, Cubby was a hell of a songwriter. And I was sometimes watching him, I was surprised that he wasn't a star himself with a big crew. And I do hope, I still think some jam bands ought to pick up some of his songs and run with them. He sang with Bean for a long time. Bean?
So I'm going to give you the prequel to Cubby. We went to school together in Boulder in 1980 for heating and air conditioning. Yeah. More than once I told him, you'd be back in Denver switching thermostats. It wasn't for me. So I jumped on the bus with the Grateful Dead after a couple of years in Denver with him. Oh, no, I kind of forgot something. He had his Ohio crew, and I had my Pennsylvania crew. And about the first day of school, we became close. And by the second week of school, the weekend was coming up. It's like, why don't you guys come over to my house? And we had a big old party, and the guitars would come out. And that just started to happen every weekend. And Kevin just kept getting closer to the guitars to the point where he would tell us what songs to play. He had found his voice. He didn't know he had one. So I ran off for a year or two with the Grateful Dead. Ended up, I met my future wife, and I said, bro, come out here. We're going to start a band. It's awesome. I got a place to stay. Well, 5 days later, he was there on his 350 Kawasaki or whatever it was. And so we squatted at a house in Berkeley for a little while. We would busk up on Telegraph and get our fuel change. And I don't know if you remember a place down by the Berkeley Marina, Charlie Brown's. Well, they had this big spread, ham, beef, cheese, all kinds of salads. So we would buy our $2 draft beer, because it's happy hour, and we would eat for the day. And wake up in the morning with a few cents in our pocket, walk down, get some coffee beans, and start all over again. And eventually we did it. We started that band, Buffalo Rome, and he became Cubby.
Next up is a man who describes himself as a fellow traveler. It's Michael Jackson.
Hey, all. So you heard Not Hal earlier talk about when Cubby first got around in the middle 80s. I met him shortly after that. I was not working for McCune. I think I still qualify as one of 3 sound engineers in the entire Bay Area who never worked for McCune, at least of my generation. Anyway, and they asked me when I was going to walk out, they said, so where did you meet Cubby? And I haven't the slightest idea where I met him. He just sort of was this omnipresence that was always around somewhere, doing something. Sometimes he was a stage manager, sometimes he was a musician, sometimes he was a sound engineer, sometimes we didn't know what the hell he was doing. Anyway, in the middle 90s, I went to work for a little sound company in the East Bay, and we had our little shop up in El Sobrante, and we had a client up at Lake Tahoe that needed to rent some gear that they rented every summer for a golf tournament. Some Meyer UPAs, an amp rack, some wireless mics, a little mixer. You throw it in the back of a 16-foot bobtail, you drive up to Tahoe, you drop it off in the loading dock, and you drive back. It's like you're good for 10 hours. 5 up, 5 back. It's a diesel truck. It doesn't go that fast. So my boss at the time, a guy named John Manito, who some of you may know at Meyer Sound, he says, Michael, can you do the drive? And I'm like, no, I can't do the drive. I look over at David Bowers, who was my compatriot in the shop, and he couldn't do it either. We had both things going on. So John says, why don't you call Cubby? He's like the utility infielder from hell. So we give him a call. He's like, sure, whatever you need, man, I'll be there. So, all right, so be in the shop at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and I'll give you the paperwork, tell you where you're going, and off you go. So he shows up, and he bounds into the shop. He's like, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going? And I gave him the paperwork. You're going to, I forget if it was Harvey's or Harris. It was someplace on South Shore. And, you know, it's El Sobrante to Sacramento, Highway 50, up over the Echo Summit, down the other side into Tahoe, drop the gear, rinse and repeat and reverse. I'm figuring it's like 9-10 hours. And I give him the clipboard with the paperwork. I said, just drop it at the loading dock, they'll sign for it, and come on back. So he's like, okay. Toss him the keys, he gets in the truck, it's all loaded, it's all fueled up, and off he goes. I figure I'll see him at, you know, sometime when I'm ready to go home that night. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm getting ready to go to lunch. And I stood up from my desk, and I'm walking towards the door to go across the street and get a sandwich. And Cubby comes bounding in the door. Okay, I'm all done. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He's been gone for 5 hours. He's supposed to be pulling into the loading dock right now. And I looked at him and I said, what happened? He says, nothing, I'm back. And he hands me the paperwork, and sure enough, there's a signature on the paperwork, and he tosses me the keys. I was like, I'll send you an invoice, I gotta go. So the first thing I did was I opened up the back of the truck to make sure the gear was not in the back of the truck. The gear was not in the back of the truck. The second thing I did was I walked back into my office, and I picked up the phone, and I called the guy at Harvey's or Harris or wherever it was, and I said, so how'd that gear drop-off go? Oh, no problem, that Cubby, he's quite a character. Okay, great, okay, click. That was in I'm guessing 1994. I told that story around Cubby to other people for all of the years since, and I have not once, ever, has he copped to how he did that. From El Sobrante to South Tahoe in a diesel truck. I drove that truck for 13 years. I know it's governed at 65 miles an hour. So you may have your theories about how he maybe got up there so fast. But the truck wasn't going to do it. He might have been ahead of the truck. So, okay. I never found out how he did it. Never. Short postscript to the story. Later that afternoon, John, my boss, over at the main office, David and I were in the warehouse. John was over in the main office. He calls me up. He says, did Cubby drop off that gear? Like, yeah. I talked to the guy. They have the gear. Everything is okay. I said, what's up? He said, well, I just got off the phone with a woman who is really angry. I said, what's going on? She said, well, someone driving our truck, who she described as a raving lunatic, tried to drive her off the cliff on the Echo Summit on her way into South Tahoe, and she's threatening to sue us for mental anguish. And I smiled, and I'm like, so what'd you say? He said, well, he fortunately, John had the presence of mind to ask her how she knew it was our truck, because at that time, there were no markings on the trucks, no logos, no company name, no Transpo ID numbers, nothing. It was just a license plate. She said, I took down the license plate of your maniac, and I have a friend at the DMV who looked it up for me, and she gave me your name. And John had the presence of mind to say, well, if you decide to go forward with this, your friend is going to get fired because what they did is completely illegal. And she hung up. So everybody's got a Cubby story. Some people have closets of them. Not Hal, I'm sure, has an entire storage locker full of Cubby stories. But that's my personal favorite. Thank you all very much.
So over the years, Cubby had a lot of bosses. He toured with a lot of people. And he toured and worked with a fellow he called his favorite boss ever, Sammy Hagar.
Hey, Sammy Hagar here. I had the wonderful opportunity of working with Cubby, and the way I would judge anyone that road managed me or did accounting on the road would be by the way my office team, if they liked him or not. If I liked him, it didn't matter to them, but I loved Cubby. He was great, and my office loved him. So obviously, he was very good at his job, and he will be missed, and my love and peace to his loved ones and family that has been left behind.
So I've been asked to remind you that when we're all done here later, before you leave, please make sure you sign the remembrance book for the family. Another one of Cubby's folks from the 1980s and McCune was Cedric Latham.
I don't have any real specific Cubby stories to tell, just little anecdotes. I don't know if you knew it, but Cubby could get along with anybody and everybody. And I don't know if the Ohio family knows, but Cubby actually carried a Negro card. And I was one of the first people officially assigned to punch it. He had to get it punched every month to carry, a card carry. And that was me. So, and I actually have a Denise story. And Denise, I hope you weren't pissed at him too badly because he was laughing at you. And he was laughing at you because of me. We were on the phone, your back was turned. You're way off in the grass riding a riding mower. And I'm texting him. He's sending me these pictures. And finally, he just said, fuck it, let's just get on the phone and talk. We're talking, and I'm going, dude, you're sitting on the porch drinking beer, hanging out, and you're letting your wife mow the lawn? So if he was cracking up while you were doing hard work, that was my fault, and I apologize. And I don't know why, because of today, I probably had a Cubby-inspired moment. I was at work, one of the few times I'm at work lately, and I wanted to go get something to eat because I knew I was going to be here late. I won't have dinner till later, whatever. So I wanted to go to my favorite beer and burger place. I get there, they're closed. They close at 2. I got there at 2:24. So I said, okay, well, I'll just walk way over by the Transamerica building, go to Togo's, the Subway, get a big pastrami sandwich. I looked them up. They don't exist anymore. So I said, okay, there's this deli on 3rd and Folsom, right near Moscone. I'll go in there because they used to make me a smoked salmon sandwich. So I asked for the smoked salmon sandwich. She says, oh, well, because of COVID, we've, cut down on our, deli selections. Our management says we could only make these 5 sandwiches, and, one of them's pastrami. So I said, what would Kevin do? So I went over to the deli section, I grabbed a packet of smoked salmon. I walked up to her and I said, make me a pastrami sandwich, hold the pastrami, and put this on it. And that's exactly what Cubby would have done.
Please welcome Lee Joe Smith from Local 16.
Cubby, my dude, my dude. You know I couldn't come up here without the brim hat on. And since you always used to ask me about my shades, I had to make sure I got on the Versace's for you. My man, King of Style. You used to call me the King of Style. I used to call you the King of Style. So I felt like maybe tonight you and I should make a pact. How about you hold down the throne up there, and you know I'm going to hold it down up here. My man, Cubby, the first time I met Cubby was on a peculiar situation. I found out real quickly that Cubby has a black side to him. Yeah, he black for sure. He got a black side to him. There was a situation where I was in an argument with a fellow Local 16 guy, and the argument was real heated. I mean, the argument got me to go back to the side I didn't want to go back to for a minute, where we got the naming blocks and hoods and all that stuff. And so when the argument finished, here come Cubby walking over, and I'm like, man, who is this Kojak-looking dude here? And I thought I was going to get one of those. Now, you know we can't do those speeches, and that wasn't it. He started to do a speech, and he said the word brother like 25 times, all in the speech. He came up to me and said, hey, bro, it's all good, brother. It's all good. Philmo's finest. You don't even put the R on it. You just say Philmo. It's all good, brother, because we all brothers here. That's your brother over there. That's your brother. I'm just Detroit brother here. I'm Ohio. I get it, brother. Brother, we all brothers here. You know, we just can't really threaten people like that, brother, because we all brothers. And from ever since then on, man, I understood that, you know, for Cubby, Local 16 was about having family and being brothers and being sisters. I really appreciated how he stood up for Local 16, whether he was working for Concept or he was working on the floor. He always had our backs. Cubby understood that the union being strong was best, and I appreciated that. I'll never forget that. Cubby meant a lot to me. We had deep conversations about style, about music, but he always had our backs, and that's something we'll never forget. I remember Cubby used to always tell me I was best dressed, and so I want to say here tonight, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot lie, Cubby. You ain't never lied.
Another Local 16, please welcome Frank G.
Well, Cubzilla, we really will miss you. I don't remember actually how we met or where we met. You were just there. And my time in Local 16, you were always there. And we had our moments. You know, you're that kind of guy, and so was I. But I hope you're getting shortbread and good tea where you are now. You will be missed. You are a very special man. And it was my pleasure to have known you. Your memory will live forever. Bye, Cubby.
Well, I said, how am I going to recognize Frank? And they said his eyebrows. And I didn't know what they were talking about, but I definitely do now. Any of you lucky enough to see Cubby on stage with Buffalo Rome or the Vicious Hippies, right? And they talk about a front man for the Vicious Hippies. That was the perfect name for a band that Cubby was in. He commanded a stage. I was saying this earlier. I'm surprised that we weren't on tour as his support, honestly. He commanded a stage like nobody else. and he had a voice that was just spectacular. He was a killer songwriter. And I just don't understand why he never fully went for it, but he liked the role that he had, I guess, behind the scenes, making it all happen, being in the front row at the greatest show on earth rather than, but man, when he stomped around that stage, you know, sweet, loving Cubby, when he got that microphone in front of him and he started stomping around that stage at Soup or the Starry Plow or any of the other places I saw him.
I heard you need to be bailed out.
Yeah, I'm not the best stretcher.
So
Hey, they tell me, I said, you know, they tell me, oh, this guy's with the local, this woman's with whatever, McCune, and I asked about Curly, and they just said everything, so.
it's kind of hard to live up to. Wow. Wow. Been kind of so busy, I haven't had to stop and feel these feelings right now, so give me a sec. Okay. First of all, I want to say it's very warming to us to have Cubby's family here. Some of the time, if any of us have spent any time with them tonight, I've spent some other time with them, he's around, right? It really warms my heart, for sure, you know. But I wanted to come up and I want to talk about Cubby and concept, right? And you know what? I'm missing the other half of me. Come on, Lena. Come on. Help me bring Lena up, please. You know, she's missing him every day right now because Dreamforce is rough without him, you know, and we're in the middle of that sucker. You know, besides that, Cubby would say, well, how come you don't have the foul mouth one with you on stage right now?
Don't listen to him. He's so full of shit.
See? Right? Actually, it was great. You know, I mean, Cubby even seen it. You know, clients would bring their, when she ran the dock, clients would bring their clients down just so she'd tell them, get the fuck off my dock. Right? You know, but we got to tell you, I'm going to start off when I heard Cubby was going back to Ohio. Our business was growing. We're getting very busy. And I went to Cub and I says, hey, man, I says, I want you to work for me from Ohio. He says, what the hell are you talking about, right? And, you know, he lived in a house in Richmond, and it had this water. I'm sitting right in this front yard in this walkway, and he's walking back and forth. He goes, are you bullshitting me? What the hell, right? He goes, you might have just solved all my problems. I says, no, wait a minute. I'm trying to solve my problems. We're talking about my thing here, right? He says, well, yeah, right? But you don't know something. It's very hard to find lightning in a bottle. Hey, Cubby was lightning in a bottle. I didn't know everything he was going to bring to us. And we miss him. We miss him dearly, right? You know, we miss him on the Zoom meetings. We miss him out here with us on Dreamforce.
Fucking up the Zoom meetings.
Yeah, yeah, right? Yeah. He couldn't hide his expressions, right? We knew we were frustrating him, right? Yeah. He'd spin the chair around. All we would see is a lazy boy, right? You know, but, you know, one of the greatest things that matched concept was, you know, our love for our union brothers and sisters. And we set out to change things that were wrong with our business, with how they were treated. You know, and that's what made Cubby so great. Because when he came to work for us, he could do that. There's so many of you that go, man, with Cub, man, when everything was going and Cub was going, man, he was working me so much. And you know what? He loved that every day, man. We'd call him and we'd say, hey, man, we need an estimate for this. You know, that boom, let's book it, boom. He was on it. But he loved it, right? He thrived at it. You know, I asked him one time, I had to say, what's your family in Ohio think, right? You know, go nowhere, and, you know, you need pajamas. And he says, you know, he says, they didn't know. He says, till one night I was at, you know, dinner, because he's on East Coast time. It's probably 5 o'clock our time. We have to get something quick. You know, he's at dinner. So he goes, he takes care of the thing, comes back, and his family says, well, what do you do? He says, cha-ching. Yeah. I says, I said, they got it? He says, they got it. You know, but, you know, we're going to miss his love every day. We're going to miss his talent every day. We don't know if he's even replaceable, right? And I don't think he's replaceable, right? No. You know, he holds a special spot in our hearts, in my family's heart, my children, my wife, you know. And every time we got off the phone, he said, kiss the ladies for me and tell them God bless. And he was talking to, you know, our concept family and our families, you know. But, you know, I just got to say, you know, if we all could learn something from Cubby, is that it's the love for one another, you know, makes us all stronger, the same way solidarity does in the union, right? And Cubby made us all better, either individually or as a whole, you know. And I just, you know what, I just want a round of applause for, you know, for that guy. We love you, brother. Miss you, and we'll think about you all the time. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of us go to work, you know, we would go to a place, we work 8 hours, then we go home to a different life. But you guys that go touring together, living together as you roll across the miles. I can see the amazing bond that you make with each other. One of those people that Cubby's toured with is Deanne Franklin.
So what's really actually quite funny about this whole thing is that when Cubby introduced himself to me at the local and said, I've known you for years. We met up on the road. We did gigs together. And I was like, I'm okay. He's like, I totally love you. And he was so wonderful and respectful and lovely. And I was like, how do I not remember exactly how we met? I don't know. I think I was touring and he was doing gigs with me. And that's like, he was our stage manager, production manager at different shows. And I toured with different bands a lot. So I, you know, I met a lot of wonderful people, but he, in the end, came to me with, you know, in the union, and made me feel like I was welcome for the first time. I had been with the local for a few years, and you know, they'd put me on some shows here and some shows there, and he was like, okay, look, I need to get a picture of you. Take out all your earrings, you know, dye your hair a normal color, you know, put on a suit, and let me take a picture of you. And I'm going to pass it around the office and say, you see, this person can actually do any gigs you need, any A1 gigs you need. And she can dress the part and be the part where, you know, like he knew that we can chameleon. We can be, you know, whoever we need to be at any given time, you know, doing what it is we do. You deal with different people, you do, you know, and he just knew that I was not feeling fit in, and I wasn't feeling like I was being placed in positions that were with my skill set. And he was just like, I know your skill set. I know what you're able to do. Let me make that happen for you. And I just had never felt so supported, and so he put me forward. He pulled me up. He said, I have a position here and I can pull you up. Let me help you. And I still, you know, I talked to him probably a week before he passed, and he called me up, and I was on a wonderful gig with the opera, and I I just couldn't thank him enough for what he'd done for me and how he'd made me feel so, I don't know. He made me feel accepted, and he was just such a loving, caring, helping human being. And I miss him, you know, once a week. I think I got to call, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out here that feel that way. But I miss you, man. And yeah, he's loved, and I'm glad that he's as loved as he is, because he deserved it. So, thanks.
That story of Cubby pulling people up, I've heard repeated over and over again, including our next gentleman, who Cubby, quote, was an encouraging factor in him becoming a journeyman. And you've seen him swapping out mics here. This is Kelsey.
Yeah, I toured with Cubby, with the Horde. Did some shows with him at the Masonic, a lot of shows. We used to ride from Petaluma to San Francisco. There was one show in particular where, if you know me, you know when I work, I like to munch. I munch when I work. It's kind of like keeps my energy level going. So I was mixing sound at the Masonic when the Masonic was years ago, when it was in, you know, around front. And I had the console on the side of the stage, 3,500, 3 bands, and you know, I'm kind of getting a little hungry, needing to munch something. So Cubby used to bring these cookies or nuts, and you know, put them on the corner of the console. So I, you know, patching the stage, micing the stage, doing my thing. So I go over here and grab a couple cookies. And I start munching a couple cookies. About an hour goes by, and I'm going, man, why do I feel so weird? I'm going, this is not right. So I'm doing the thing on the console. I'm micing the bands. I'm, you know, going through the whole set. Finally got everything all dialed in, ready for doors. Okay, go downstairs. I'm sitting at the table, Cubby, Dan Crow sitting there. I'm going, man, I've been feeling weird all day. I don't know what it is. As Cubby goes, what'd you eat? I go, I don't know, I just ate a couple of your chocolate chip cookies. He goes, why, you dumbass? Those are Renetta's cookies. I said, oh. So fortunately, I started coming down, and I felt better by the time the show hit. So that's one of my stories about Cubby and me.
Next up from the Union, it's Reed Maidenberg.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you to his family. Wonderful tribute from everybody I've heard so far. I didn't come prepared to speak with anything, as many people didn't, but we have a saying in the Jewish tradition, Zichrona Livracha, means may their memories be for a blessing. And that's been paraphrased tonight. Cubby's memory will be for a blessing. That means when this person comes up in your heart, in your thoughts, in your memories, whatever it may be, that will be a blessing to you in your soul. That's what Cubby was to me. He came into a room. He didn't just take up space. He inhabited the space. He filled the space with beautiful love and feeling, deep feelings. Maybe it wasn't love. Sometimes it was anger. Sometimes he was just damn pissed off. But underneath it was always that core of concern and love that I always felt from him. From the moment I gave him a container of sunscreen at the Chris Beck Arena at the Sonoma County Fair, and he pulled his hat off and he took that tube of stuff and he just squirted it on his head like topping a Dairy Queen off. And he just rubbed it all over it. I said, I've never seen anybody do anything like that. So, wonderful stories about Cubby. We all loved him. I loved him. He gave me a cookie once, too. And we were commuting back and forth when he was living in Petaluma. And we'd sing blues songs on the way home. And dropping off him off at the house, we'd go in and play a couple songs on the guitar. And he gave me a cookie from Renata. And there wasn't the dosage label on the cookie. And the next weekend, I was visiting friends in the Trinity Alps. We took a houseboat out on Trinity Lake. And I swear to God, I ate the entire cookie. I didn't know. The great cookie stories. But I had to get in the water and swim for 2 hours nonstop to keep my head straight. Anyway, we'll miss Cubby very much. But his memory will always be for a blessing. Thank you.
All right, so this next guy was in Buffalo, Rome with Cubby, and that's when I started running with them all. And I just want to, before he comes out, I hope he understands that I don't work in rock and roll. I work straight jobs. And so please don't tell all the stories or leave some of the detail out about the 90s. None of my future bosses need to ever see any of it. It was in the past, okay? Please welcome Chuck Rosine.
Hello, friends. So, to pick up from Brother Bean, it was about June of 1985, and I got invited over to Charlie Boyle's house over on Key Avenue. There you go. And I was invited to bring my bass because my friend Howie was not going to leave the Grateful Dead tour. And they said, hey, check out my friend Chuck. So I came in with my bass and we played some tunes and everything was groovy. And I met Kevin and Bean and everybody. And hey, it was great. Next thing I knew, Kevin and Bean had moved into my house with Brenda and Booch. And not only that, but Kevin was working, I believe, for me in construction. So we'd wake up and get into my Volkswagen and drive to West Richmond and put together prefab houses, then drive up to San Pablo and rehearse, and then drive back home. Rinse, repeat. Kevin, 24/7. The man I met was wild, crazy, compassionate. He had a big heart. He had a lot of conflicting emotions. He had a great, great talent. A great, great talent that was undisciplined. He had a love of music that would not die. And when he got the job offer for McCune, that was about the best thing that could ever happen because he was able to combine his passion and his love for music with a real living and fell under the mentorship of men and women who helped raise that boy into a much more focused and disciplined, chaotic person. And I want to thank everybody in the industry because that's when he became a man. That's when we all grow up at some point in our lives, and that's when he became a man. They moved into the house, and our first gig was at the Berkeley Fellowship of Unitarian Universalists, playing with Reverend Paul Sawyer, who is Chapter 7 of the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, reading poetry behind us. 2 months later, we went to the Starry Plow on a Tuesday night and packed the place and sold more beer than they ever had before. More beer than they ever had before. but Kev was impatient. He was impatient, and pretty soon we weren't good enough. And he went off to these rascals that were our competition, the Vicious Hippies. They also stole our keyboard player, Sammy Johnson. I'm playing with 3 of them tonight. Because whenever Cubby came back from his tours and his gigs, he came back and we played music. And we played music in different configurations and for different people. We played his songs. I think I know more songs than Cubby remembered. And we became, out of this Stary Plow Ashkenaz melange, a musical family that can come together and celebrate his life in the manner which he would like to be celebrated. So that's my story, and that takes it up through there. And I thank you very, very much.
Oh, good. He didn't ruin any of my future jobs. Kimberly Miller met Cubby when she started working in the union back in the 1990s, and she also had a pet named Jackpot.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Miller. I am a stagehand with Local 16. 25 years ago, I probably met Cubby. I actually don't know when I met Cubby, as many people don't. I thought it would be cool to tell some. I'm sure. So I thought it'd be cool to tell some stories of some Cubby-isms, if you were, for our union brothers and sisters. They all have their stories. We interacted with them quite often, and I would like to share it with the family primarily. So here they are. So I got these from the internet, from Facebook. We'll call these Cubby at Work. This is from Robert, one of the 500 Roberts we have. He once told me that he got a carp call and he should show up with a hammer. And he said that he pulled out a tack hammer, and he said that he was an audio guy. So Alicia, she wrote, he was at the Marriott one time. An electrician came in with black ripped jeans. Cubby, do you have a cat? The electrician, no. Cubby, this is a style choice. There's a Target across the street. If you would want to get some pants that don't look like they've been attacked by a cat. This one's from another McCune sister. This comes from the days when I worked at McCune with him. We were working on main stage at Monterey Jazz Festival. Hal's the front of house. I'm on monitors. Robert Burnson is like the K-Jazz recording track. Cubby's on stage. Chick Corea is on stage playing piano and doing that kind of thing where it sounds like he's hitting every note on the keyboard with his forearms and a leg. Suddenly, Robert calls Cubby from the truck. Hey, Cubby, I think the piano is going out of tune. Standard Cubby explosion. What do you want me to do about it? Oh, I know, but maybe the break, we can, get the tuner up there. Tuner? Oh, hell no. We ain't gonna have no tuner up here. Maybe some halibut or salmon, but no tuner. So these are Cubby-isms. Sean writes, here is another. A lump is a lump is a lump. Cub telling a kid who taped down an electrical connection in the middle of the room. I miss him. Another one is, get your people skills in order. And then we flat pack the cutlass. There's one. Jesse wrote, I'm gonna work you like a sled dog, Cubby. Here's one. Nick writes, I remember once my crew and I were accidentally sent to a Weston State Francis instead of one by the airport for a call. And when I phoned him up, he went on his computer to check it out, and he says, it says here, Weston, SFO, oh shit. Sandy writes, my favorite is when he'd explain to employers the importance of a shadow, in case the tech had some bad clamps. Got me every time, miss him tremendously. He brought the office to life. Mark writes, once he sent me on a call a day early because he misread the sheet, which happens all the time. When I called him and informed him the hotel had it scheduled the next day, he responded, outstanding, you were a day early. We like that. We like to see that in our stagehands. Here's one, let's see. Shauna writes, I got a call from Cubby for the last minute gig at the Fillmore. He said, my hair is on fire. I need you to go be at the Fillmore right now. So I jumped in my car and I sped down to the club and did the gig, mixing monitors for Orgone and another 12-piece funk band who joined together for the last set. Cubby with hair on fire, LOL. Jamie writes, I used to get early quick calls from Cubby. He's recorded messages, went something like this, rise and shine, my brother. It's time to go to work. Give me a call as soon as you get this message. We're busy. And then Rick writes, he responds, I agree it would be like a part pep talk, part caring, part concerned friend, part comedy always, and part productive, profitable information, all in 30 seconds or less. I have many of his voicemails still. In fact, Rick sent me a voicemail, which got me. Now it's just a simple text from an unknown agent. He will be terribly missed. I miss you, Cubby. I love you. Love to the family and everybody that came out of town.
So I made reference to that Kimberly had a bird named Jackpot, which is kind of an obscure reference. Some of you may know the real Jackpot in Cubby's life. Hillary tells me that Jackpot was their love child. Maybe Hillary will tell you more about it.
So this is Jackpot, and I'm Hillary. And Jackpot was Cubby and I's medicine ball. She's been with us for a long time. I first met Cubby probably a little more than 20 years ago when I first started in the local. And I realized very quickly that we were very much kindred spirits with our quick wit and dark sense of humor. We're also kindred spirits in the fact that neither of us possess filters and have no idea what an inside voice is. Thank you, Karen, for relating. One of the first times that we really truly bonded was one of my early gigs with Local 16, and I believe it was 2000. We were out on a pier, and I believe that he was the steward for the job. And he sent somebody in to find the lightest person in the building with a harness, because he had been talking on his phone while pacing up and down the pier and dropped his phone. And luckily enough, it landed about 15 feet down on a ledge just above the water. Didn't fall into the bay. So came in, got me. I went out, what's the deal? Oh, yeah, I can get that. So the rest of the riggers on the call lowered me down to get Cubby's phone and return it to him. So he always felt in debt to me for that. So, and we quickly bonded, and he realized that I'm immensely a dog person, and we bonded over that. Years go by, and him and his wife get a house in Richmond area where they can have a dog. And so he called me and said, I need a dog. Okay, Cubs, I gotcha, we'll get you a dog. So he's like, I really want a big dog. I really, really want a big dog. But Renetta, well, she's recovering from a brain aneurysm, and she's just learning to walk on her own. And, well, I'm at work, and she can't walk a big dog. Okay, I got you, Cubs. So I had just a few days before this found Jackpot as a puppy running around in the street in Oakland and wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with her because I didn't need a third dog. And so I said, you know, it's not a big dog, Cubby, but she doesn't know that. So let's just meet at Point Isabel, and you guys meet her. And her and Renetta fell immediately in love, and off they went together for many years. And then I was going through a transition of recovering from a motorcycle accident at the same time that Cubby was packing up and very stressed but very excited about moving back to Ohio. So I stopped by his place on my way home from the hospital to see her and to see him, and she immediately latched onto me knowing that I needed her. And so he let me borrow her while he packed because she was very stressed about the packing situation. So he let me borrow her while he was packing. And I bonded back with her so much that I couldn't let her leave. So I begged and pleaded, and he finally succumbed to letting me keep her because his new wife, Denise, had a cat that was clawless, and he was moving to Ohio where there was snow. Neither of those things were going to work for Jackpot. So we came to terms that the best thing for her was to come back with me. So I'm fortunate enough to every day get to have a bit of Cubby with me. So she knows when I'm sad, and she knows when I need it, and she picks me up, and she's our communal medicine ball. So if any of you need a little bit of Cubby, anytime, give us a call and let us know. You can have a little Jackpot.
So we're going to bring the band back up in a couple of moments here, but before we do hear from them, I want to introduce a woman who sang with Cubby in Buffalo Rome is going to say a few words. It's Maggie Forty. She went that way to her own mic. No, you are. She's just going to say something.
Hi, everybody. How beautiful to meet Cubby's family. I just never had, and Denise. Yeah, I met Cubby in the early 90s. I'm with Buffalo Rome, this bunch of wild, wonderful guys, and we're in this little rehearsal space in Oakland, and Cubby walks in. Cubby's going to join the band. And I was just like, wow, this is like a high voltage character. Like, I gotta keep my eye on him. Anything can happen. He was just larger than life. And I quickly learned that there was nothing scary about Cub. His high voltage was not dangerous. It was just he was plugged into something big. And so singing next to him was really always amazing, really, like just to watch him let loose. And this particular song that we're going to sing for you, Aimless Love, I wrote on an airplane, and there's a lot of chaos and order themes in it. And there's one line, chaos raging down below. And many folks have brought up the word chaos with, when they're telling their stories about Cub. And Cubby just loved this line in this song, and he sang it like nobody's business. He owned it, and sometimes it was like he was in the eye of the storm and wanting to get out, So we will do our best to sing it, and it is for Cubby with love. And lastly, we were all rehearsing in Juliet and Rich's yard outside recently, a month ago, and I started to sing the line of the chorus, which is, everything came crashing down. And exactly in that moment, quite coincidentally, all these bottles, these recycling bottles, came crashing down, and we all looked at each other and went, coincidence? Or like, did Cubby just come through the portal and say hi and make us laugh? I don't know. Believe what you will. But it was a beautiful moment. Yeah. Thank you. Situated. Alrighty. first love soared on the wind, chance to come our way. Then it lost all direction, it crash landed, burned away, crash landed, burned away. Some no tears like you and me, some I see still flying. Even that they have control over wings they do not own. Maybe they know something I don't know, something I don't know. Everything came crashing down years before these wheels touched the ground. Tears spilling oceans, oceans that rise back up to the sky. Oh, somehow love survives. Outside the window on this flight, siren blue and screaming white, blinding smoke comes and goes while chaos rages down below. Chaos rages down below. Everything came crashing down years before these wheels touched the ground. Tears spilling oceans, oceans that rise back up to the sky. Somehow love survives. Ooh, somehow love survives. While chaos rages down below. While chaos rages down below. While chaos rages, love survives. While chaos rages, love survives. Love survives. Rages, somehow love survives. Hey, love survives. Yeah. Cubby, I love you so much.
Beetle Bow,
Nice job, you guys. Next up is someone who worked with Cubby on tours and in Local 16. It's Tiggy.
Hi everyone, I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. Yeah. Well, I first met Cubby in 2002. I was a PM in front of house for Michael Franti and Spearhead. And we got booked on this US winter tour called Snowcore with Ozzy Martley and Carl Denson. And the most exciting bit for me, honestly, was getting to take my snowboard on the road. But it's honestly mainly Blur, lost to the annals of rock and roll time. But what I do recall in particular is the Whistler show. For one, it was actually snowing. It was snowing really hard, and we loaded in and loaded out in the snow. And I remember cursing my way through that. And I remember the front of house setup being really hokey. It was like, I don't exactly remember, but I feel like the console was on like some table or something. It was pretty shit. Anyway, the main reason I remember it is that's the day that I met Cubby. I had to write this out, I'm sorry. So it's the day I met Cubby. I'm pretty sure that I was in my typical show blacks, being way too serious. And, you know, here comes this super large character, just comes flying in, super loud. I remember thinking, he's so American. He is the epitome of like what, you know, a European might think an American person was. It was really loud, it was large, it was larger than life, he had a huge personality. And I'm 99.9% sure that he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and there I was all serious in my show black. So yeah, bless his heart. Yeah, I think I was my British personality was overwhelmed by this big noisy character. But we hit it off, and then we had loads of fun. And then about 6 years later in the union I am by now, and mixing monitors at YBCA Forum with a guy, and who shows up with SF Jazz? Cubby! Exactly the same, being a pain in the arse, really loud, louder than everyone else, bossing everyone around, and not taking any shit off anyone. And it was really amazing to see him again. And so for a few more years, there at the YBCA and here where you guys are tonight at the Palace of Fine Arts Theatre, he was just part of the team there, and I was welcomed into that with KT, Robin Williams, Ryan Snyder, and obviously Cobbs himself, and Brian, Chewy and Brian. And they became an early part of my early union life, and Cubby was just a huge part of that. I saw him once outside of work, just once, and it was down at Russ's house in Fairfax, and I think I was going down to the party anyway, but I don't know if I knew that Cubby was going to be there. And then Russ was like, "Hey, Snyder was supposed to show up with a console," and I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." And I said, "I've got like a 4-channel Mackie up at the house," so I went back up to the house, got the 4-channel Mackie, got out my bag of adapters, and went down there, and there was Cubby. There was Cubby, larger than life, big shirt, making loads of noise, playing guitar and singing. And I'd never actually seen him play before. I'd never seen him outside work. So that was amazing. And at some point, I fixed everything, you know, did the sound engineer thing, fixed it, made it work, watched him play. And at some point he came up to me and he just got really in my face and he was like, "Oh," and he was so excited. And he just had this mad twinkle in his eye, and he said, "Guess what? See that girl over there?" He said, "That's my childhood sweetheart, that's Denise." And he said, "We're going to get married, and I'm moving back to Ohio." And I was like, wow. and I was just so blown away and so happy for him. So yeah, that was a really good memory I had of Cubby. And then the last time I saw Cobbs, I think was I don't know, a couple of years ago, right? Everything's a couple of years ago at this point, but he just vouched for me. It was some gig. It was Dreamforce, I think, and you know how it goes. You get your show position, and the following year maybe you don't get the show position. And Cubs came over to me at some point, and he just said, "Hey," you know, he always got in your face, right? And was like, "Hey," because he was just talking to you, and he said, "You know, I said I knew Tiggy when she was loading in and loading in the snow and loading out in the snow," and I just started laughing because I remembered that gig, that snow cold gig. And he was like, yeah, well, I vouched for you. I said, I remembered you doing that. And he gave me a big hug. And I think that's one of my residing memories of Cobbs, is that he was just so loved by everybody because he made everybody feel really special. And to him, everybody was really special. He just had a special place in his heart for everybody, and especially for the underdog. So, yeah, that's my Cubby stories. And again, it's not a sad occasion, but it is a sad occasion, and I hope that you guys all have a good time tonight, remembering Cubs as we all remembered him, as just being just full of love for everybody and larger than life. So, all right, I'm signing off now. Ciao.
One of the things you don't know that's cool about getting old until you start getting older is watching generations grow up. Please welcome a mother and daughter. It's Sandy and Sophia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sandy, and this is Sophia. Many of you know me. I worked in the office for almost 15 years, and I got to be really good friends with Cubby. I met him back in 2005, and he was always very kind. One of the former staff of the hall said it perfectly, that whenever he came into the office, there was always a big grin on his face and a twinkle in his eye, and I can just see that so vibrantly in my window. And he would always think of myself and other gals in the office. He'd always bring us little presents, little swag, and I thought this was the sweetest thing. And then when they announced that he was going to be an agent in the office, I was like, oh my God, I love that guy, and I just love his energy, and there's something about him. And I think what really made us bond, I know a lot of you have worked with him out in the field and toured with him, is just our discussions about family, kids, dogs, and food. Even though I didn't know his siblings, I felt like I knew you. That's all he talked about. And every summer he was so excited to go see you guys. I remember me thinking, a typical woman, did you pack already? What are you talking about? I got my guitar, and I got my backpack with a couple t-shirts, swim trunks, I'm set. So I was like, wow. So I would love hearing his stories and seeing his pictures. And then I'm glad he met Denise, because that's really what he needed. He was really brokenhearted, and I'll never forget when he told me he was gonna move back home. I was crushed. And I knew he didn't like telling me stuff because he didn't want to see my typical woman cry, because when he told me he was moving back to Ohio, I remember I practically started bawling in the office. And I didn't think I'd hear from him, but no. We would check in with each other all the time, and I would tease him by sending pictures of all the delicious food I was eating here, and he would just complain about sausages and whatever he was eating over there. And so I just love them, because there will never be another person like him. Never, ever. He was unique, just so special. And I honestly thought he was going to make it this time, but You know, he knew he was ready. And what I appreciate about him is he was always 100% real, honest, and I think that's why we hit it off. When he came into the office, he brought that magic, that when he worked in the office with the agents and that particular team that is Joanne Desmond, Patrick Murphy, Derek Liu, it was like a well-oiled machine. They just had that common respect, and I think the membership felt it. And he was so great with the employers and the members. I had someone tell me today that what they appreciated about him is that they knew he was being sincere because he would look at them in the eye, and they felt they were getting an honest conversation and that he actually cared, and that's true. He is just, was a proud union member. He just broke it down like nobody else could, and I will miss him forever. And I know other people are trying to claim him that he's got black men in him, but I know he's got Latino in him too. Because let me tell you, he put up with my fiery personality, my daughter. He ate whatever I brought him into the office. And one thing I will miss, every time he came in on a concept job, sometimes Gina was with us, we would make sure he took a red-eye flight. We'd take him to a Mexican restaurant, fill up his belly with good Mexican food and booze, and get him on that red-eye so he can get home to Denise. So all I have to say about Cubby is I will never forget you. I love you. Thank you for being my friend and for letting us, because whenever he would talk to me, that's about my husband and my kids, and he never failed to tell me that he loved us. So to my pinche güey cabrón, te quiero muchísimo.
It's always hard to say goodbye, but I think this is not a goodbye for Cubby. Cubby's memories will live forever in all of us. And one thing I will always remember by Cubby is he never addressed me as Sophia. He always addressed me as Madame. So whenever he would ask about me, he'd say, "How is Madame doing?" And I've never had a guy, a crazy uncle like Cubby, call me Madame. He made me feel very special. And one of the funny stories that I'll always laugh at, because I have a picture of it too, is when I used to do security at the Giants before I became a stagehand. And I got a call and text from both of my parents saying, "Hey, Uncle Cubby is sitting in one of our friends' seats." And so, as security, our job is to kick people out. So you know what I was told to do. And so he did believe it at first, but then when he turned around and saw it was me, he knew my mother put me up to it. And we laughed, and I have that picture to remind me every day that Cubby is with me. And I'll never forget that he represented family, and that meant the most to him, and it meant the most to my family as well, and as well as the union. And what else can we say about Cubby? He was loved. He always knew when someone needed to laugh, if they needed a shoulder to cry on. Cubby was very special to all of us, and we'll never forget that. Long live Uncle Cubby.
Well, speaking of family and generations, from Detroit, it's Cubby's nephew, Nate Williams.
I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of scary with everybody here and being on TV. But, all right. So, I'm Nate, we're Nathaniel. Uncle Cubby he was the one guy that I could talk to about anything. Anything in the world. About dreams, passion, anything. And he would just tell me to go do it. And we had an interesting bond. We bonded over interesting things. We bonded over food. And he pushed me to do culinary, and I loved it. We also bonded over music. He told me about like 10 different bands I've never heard of, and they're all small indie bands. And I still listen to them today. We also bonded over photography, and I'm actually taking pictures all night today. And he just pushed me to do that. But the biggest thing we bonded over, and it's maybe weird to other people, but it was hats. Every time he come to town, we always sat down and talked about hats. Or we would go downtown and to this one place called Henry the Hatter's, and we would just go and look at hats. And one of the greatest memories I had, it was 2 weeks before my birthday, and he came in for summer. And he took me down with my dad, my uncles, my cousins. It was all the guys. It was guy day. And he made it a point that we had to stop at Henry the Hatter's. And he kind of got me hooked on buying hats. I know for him, it was just to protect his head, and he loved it, and he just loved hats. But we went into history about him. Every single hat, top hat, bowler hat, flat bill, anything. And that's always going to be with me. Now, I could talk to anybody about hats, and it won't have the same thing, but we just sat for hours before, just talking about one hat that he wore. Just that one hat. How it was made, where he got it, who made it, where that style came from, everything like that. But he was also that fun uncle that I had that pushed me to do stuff. And those connections that I had was able to push me to do things because I'm nervous to do this and push me on here. So it's just, I'm going to really miss him because I could open up to him about anything. The smallest thing, the stupidest thing, it could be anything. So that's all I got to say.
So I usually do big rock and roll festivals where we get really excited, and this is a very different experience, but I think our next person deserves one of those rock and roll kind of introductions. He toured with Cubby Sedgwick and was a member of Local 16. Please welcome Mark J. Hetrick.
Blues Traveler, straight on through morning tour. My first encounter with Cubby. He was coming off the production bus at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles, California. The bus door flew open, and this wild-eyed, raging round man came barreling out at me and said, literally barking, "Who the fuck are you, and why the fuck are you in my way?" I said, "What's your name?" "Cubby." And then I frowned. "Oh, you don't like Cubby?" "Negative. Charles Kevin Sedgwick. My name, new guy, and don't you ever fucking forget it." "Mark J. Hetrick, Morpheus crew chief. You're number 9. "What, 9? Yeah, you're the 9th fucking Morpheus crew chief I've had out here. I don't care what your name is, new guy. You better be able to troubleshoot. And I don't care who you've toured with. You better be an adult. And I don't care if, well, just don't be surprised what you see on that bus." And then he spun around, pushed past me, exploded great balls of fire to the stage. Now, we went to Berkeley, California that night, the other Greek theater, as they say in LA. Now, of course, Bill Graham is the biggest player genius in the Bay region, you know, the whole world. 100% BGP that day. Well, I noticed a sort of disheveled, nervous-looking guy. He showed up with a few hangers on that afternoon around sound check, line check time, with the band, but not with the band. I'd never seen him before. Wasn't a tour guy that I knew of. Well, the night lights go out. The house lights go out. And I'll be damned if this guy doesn't stumble out on the stage, head straight for the center vocal mic, grabs it and yells, "All right, Greek Theater, Berkeley, California." And I start to bolt from offstage right onto the deck to grab the guy, and I look over offstage left, and there's Chris Sharuki and Cubby waving me off. "No, no, 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 no," Cubby yells over the radio. "Hey, new guy, career decision-making motherfucker. That's David Graham, the band's manager, our boss, and Bill Graham's son. Do not do a fucking thing." I froze. I looked to heaven and prayed, "Thank you, Charles Kevin Sedgwick. You just saved my entire life." True. My last conversation with him, we laughed about that night. He told me he thought he was going to hospice soon, and there'd be no tears in anyone's beer at some silly service. Now get to work on the set list for my memorial. The last thing my brother said to me, as he said to so many of us gathered here in this cathedral, this palace of fine arts, get to work. I love you, Charles Kevin Sedgwick, a name none of us will ever forget. Thank you, Kevin Taylor. Thank you, Hal Sugin. Thank you, Dan Crow, Sandy Coleman, David Michael Curley, Matalena Telefano. Thank you, Denise, and your whole family. Members, take note. Love you, Kevin. Love you, man. Love you, dude.
And thank you, Mark J. Hetrick. Well, I don't envy whoever has to follow Mark J. Hetrick, but it's a guitar player who played with Cubby for many years. It's Jim Garcia.
Hi, my name is Jim Garcia, and like many of you viewing this video right now, we first met Cubby as a result of music. I was a bandmate of Cubby's back in the mid-'80s, back when he was Kevin. And then about maybe 10 years ago, we reunited and did a small project that never really got off the ground, but it was fun. And that was when Cubby was living in Richmond. But I wanted to interject a non-music little story, really brief, but around that time, you know, both Cubby and I were big basketball fans, and that's about the time when the Warriors finally, after years of being bottom dwellers, finally started doing something. And so we found ourselves watching games a lot. Dan and Cubby would come over to my house in Richmond, or we would go to T-Rex in Berkeley and watch the Warriors as they ascended the NBA ladder, and had a great time imbibing cocktails and watching the Warriors put down James Harden and the Rockets in the playoffs and make it to the finals. So yeah, so there was that other side where our lives intersected. And anyway, so music-wise, yesterday I played a small gig in town here, and I played a song that Cubby used to sing with our old band, Buffalo Rome. In fact, we did it last time we played together at the Starry Plow in Berkeley back in 2012 or so. And so I'm going to play that clip for you guys. Hope you enjoy. Bye-bye. And I thought the final line was very appropriate.
So our next speaker you've been hearing singing all evening tonight. Please welcome Juliet.
Hi, everyone. I'm Juliet Jones, and I met Kevin in '85, and people have been talking about that a lot, all the bands that we were in. I was in the Vicious Hippies, he was in Buffalo Rome, and everything intersected. But the part of my life where he made the most impact was when I started working for Winterland Productions, which was a concert merchandise company for about 10 years in the late 80s and early 90s, and I had a really tough job, which I'm sure you all can relate to, but I had to handle the cash, and I had to set up stands, and people didn't expect to see me in that position, and I had to show up to shows just sort of ready to do battle. And there was a show in Golden Gate Park, Pearl Jam, in the 90s, and I happened to have a 6-month-old baby at the time, and I was in charge of that show and the Greek and Shoreline and Cal Expo all at the same time, and I was super stressed, and I didn't have a babysitter. So I show up to Golden Gate Park, and I'm like, you know, with my baby, and I'm like, these people are gonna crucify me. This is gonna be the worst experience of my life. And pull up to where they're setting up the stage, and Kevin jumps down from the stage, grabs me, gives me a big hug and my baby, and says, I'm your man. Whatever you want, it's gonna happen. Everything's fine. Drove me around Golden Gate Park in a little golf cart with my baby and set up my stands, set up the security, and it just, you know, he was just that protector for me, for a lot of us. But like when he was there, I was safe. And I didn't feel that way very often in that job. But when he showed up, I knew it was going to be a good time, and I knew I was going to be safe, and everything was so much better. So I'm very lucky to have called him my friend, and I think we all are. Thank you.
Let's bring the band back for another one.
Right on, Juliet. Yeah, I want to say that same thing that I didn't say before, simply that Chuck always had my back, too. He was so kind.
Kevin.
I said Chuck. I meant Kyle, because that's how he introduced himself to me. He was just so kind, always thoughtful, respectful, such a sweetheart. Are we standing up?
I've heard this is his favorite song. He probably had a lot of them, but somebody said this is his favorite song. Could be a rambler from the 7 dials. I don't pay taxes 'cause I never file. I don't do business that don't make me smile. I love my aeroplane 'cause she's got style. I'm a treetop flyer.
Cargo you can pay to run. These bush league pilots, they just can't get the job done. Gotta fly into the canyons, you'll never see the sun. There's no such thing as an easy run. I'm a treetop flyer. Oh, treetop flyer. Hey.
go 15 feet over the Rio Grande. I'll blow that mesquite right up off the sand. Seldom seen, especially when I land. I'm a treetop flyer. I'm a treetop flyer.
People keep asking me, where'd you learn to fly that way? Was over in Vietnam chasing envy. The government taught me and they taught me right. Stay down under the tree line, you might be alright. I'm a treetop flyer. Hey, I'm a treetop flyer. Born survivor.
I'm coming home, I'm running low and fast. Promise my woman this is gonna be my last. I got the shit down, I tie it up real fast. Then some old boy walked up and said, hey, you wanna make some cash? I'm a treetop flyer. Born survivor, treetop flyer.
Well, there's things I am and there's things I'm not. I'm a smuggler and I could get shot. Ain't going to die, ain't going to get caught. I'm a flying fool in an airplane, too hot, treetop flyer. Hey, I'm a treetop flyer, a born survivor. Yeah,
I'm a treetop flyer.
Hey, hey, yeah, yeah,
Born survivor, treetop flyer. I'm a born survivor, treetop flyer.
Thank you.
What a great band. Thank you so much for playing. I got to say goodbye to everybody who's on the webcast. We're going to sign off the web stream. Thank you for joining us remotely. We're sorry you couldn't be here in person, but we're really glad that you were able to join us, virtually. And we actually are going to wrap things up here on the stage, but we're going to gather together in the lobby. We are going to do a toast, please, to Cubby, all together. Be with each other. And don't forget, please, the family asks that you please sign the remembrance book. Thank you all for coming. If there's one thing I think we felt through this entire night, no matter where you knew Cubby, I think the word is love. So I think it's on us now. Let's keep loving each other. Thanks for being here.